Welcome home, brave heroes and adventurers alike. I'm Ash, this is HeroQuest, and I have one question. Do any of the dice in this video look familiar to you at this point? Can you discern the identities of any of the games from which these dice were pulled? I'll give you a moment, and I will move my delicate fingers out of the way while I talk a little bit about dice. Dice for combat, dice for movement. I wanted to go over the various kinds of dice that are available across multiple dungeon crawlers and other types of games, and I wanted to show you all of the dice that I have collected in my handy Renaissance-obtained leather pouch. These little six-sided cubes with various numbers and pips and symbols on them have enraptured us for generations. They don't even have to be anything special. They can mostly be blank, save for a few pictures of some swords. We're still gonna roll them. Particularly this crowd, though, is pretty focused on judging dice. It seems like whenever a new dungeon crawler comes around, if it is not a diceless experience, various aspiring game developers and homebrew connoisseurs are looking at the dice to determine what exactly can we take from this? What can we learn? Most of the content on this channel focuses on one of the greatest dungeon crawlers of all time. And it is this dungeon crawler that has my favorite combat dice of all time. The layout is simple. We have a six-sided die with 3 skull faces, 2 white shield faces, and 1 black shield face. You can absolutely replace any of the cubes on this table with regular D6s. And I can hear you now, well, who would want to do that when you have the ability of visuals? Rolling these immediately, especially if you've done so hundreds if not thousands of times at this point in your life with the HeroQuest dice, shows you exactly at a glance, without doing any arithmetic or number comparisons whatsoever, what attacks from the attacker are going to land on the target and which ones are going to be mitigated, swatted away like the lightest of insults. There are correct ways of designing a new dice set. There are other ways that some would not find so correct. This is beginning to sound very gatekeepy. And it is here in the dice episode, essentially, that we're going to explore this topic. We'll start with the classic HeroQuest and the contemporary HeroQuest dice. There is actually no difference between these dice other than a slight difference in aesthetic and the difference in material and the difference in size. So actually everything about them literally is different. Ash, excellent job on that comparison. But they do retain the same die face configuration, and you hear me talk a bit about this whenever I'm talking about different combat systems and games and chances and when I'm homebrewing for my own game. These black dice are a variation of the combat dice. Typically we would call these the German dice because these are sold on Spielwassen, I think, in their larger counterpart 16 form, and they would go very well with the contemporary HeroQuest dice, which is something that I don't think they predicted. The Spielwassen dice came out quite a bit ago, before the 2021 re-release of HeroQuest. It's a shame that they don't match the small wooden aesthetic of these dice, the classic edition HeroQuest dice, considering that the new edition of the game wasn't out yet. Like, they literally expected people to buy those dice and roll them with the tiny wooden dice together. But have no fear, the reason that I have these dice is because Floris of HeroQuest fame has accurately reproduced what these dice might look like if they were on these different colored cubes in this 14-ish millimeter wooden beveled edge size, true to the classic edition of the game. For those of you who just wanted to sit and hear me simp about HeroQuest dice, this part of the video is over, so you can move on. We're going to go to other games now and talk about different facings and kind of where this is interesting and kind of where it falls apart. Some games employ a different colored die approach where they literally manufacture different dice and they just have different facings on each one to indicate a step up in power from your original level of strength. An example of this is Mutant Chronicles Siege of the Citadel, in which you play a cyberpunk-esque, or I suppose post-apocalyptic warrior going up against post-apocalyptic monsters. And the color of the die that you are able to roll determines the success rate of your attack, with the white die having 2 faces that seem to be successes and 4 blank sides, the red die having 3 success faces and 3 blank sides, and the black die having 4 success faces and 2 black sides. Now, for those posers who thought they were fans of my channel who have left by now, joke's on them. I'm bringing the HeroQuest dice back to make a distinction here. These 3 different dice can actually be handled by 1 die. Of course, you could handle it with the D6, but any sort of implement in a game that requires you to roll One of 2 successful faces on a 6-sided die could easily be accomplished by the HeroQuest combat die. It has 2 wide shields, so you can say if you roll one of these wide shields, your attack is successful. When we move on to the red die from Mutant Chronicles, we have 3 successes, and that matches very well with the skull face of the HeroQuest die. Now, when we get to the black die, we've got 4 success faces, and I can hear you saying, Ash, the HeroQuest die doesn't have 4 of the same symbol anywhere on it. What do you do about that? Well, that's pretty easy, my friend. You just say, roll anything but a white shield. I will say the HeroQuest die is going to be a little bit compromised by the symbology when you start talking about attacks and being successful on rolling shields versus defending with those shields. Things could get a little bit messy. And that's why games like Warhammer Quest pretty much live, die, and swear by their 1d6 system. Warhammer Quest is nothing but d6s, and they all have numbers. There's no symbols, no combat stuff. But before we dig any deeper into these classic game systems and how their dice are configured, I want to give a huge thanks to a sponsor of this video, DiceNest. DiceNest is a company with the goal of nurturing stories and imagination, believing that every set of dice and every series should have its own soul, not just serving as tools for gaming, but as vibrant and living pieces of art. Inspired by nature, history, and fantasy worlds, they strive to bring these stories to life through the shape, material, color, and design of their dice. These are the Prismatic Radiance dice, and they are crafted from K9 prismatic glass. They were given a diamond multifaceted cutting technique that allows each die to display a spectrum of colors under light. In my hands, these feel very glassy, although you likely won't be rolling these dice together like this. I would guess the more light you have in a room, the more sparkly these are going to look, although I think they are best enjoyed in a darker setting because in a room that is too bright, the numbers are going to be a bit hard to see in all of the dancing lights. If you have events of a cosmic scale in your tabletop role-playing game, you can roll the 55mm large liquid core D20. This was crafted with liquid suspension, and I could talk about what this is and give it the description on how it was made and what it's supposed to represent, but just look at the sand within the die. If a picture's worth 1,000 words and a video's worth 1,000 pictures, just let me shut up and enjoy the sight. Finally, these are the Dragon Flame Gemstone dice. Now, pictures on DiceNest's website actually didn't do this set justice, in my opinion. These look a lot better in real life than they do photographed, and the light actually plays off the surface of the dice here. They purposefully made the D4 of a design that would move away from the traditional pyramid shape in order to avoid the broken tips problem in standard D4s. But I actually really like the weight of these dice and the feel. I want to call attention to how good they feel to roll. They feel really good in the hand. Now, these are not inexpensive components because they are not cheap. The cost of these dice is going to price some of you out. But if you are tired of rolling the same boring chess-X dice on your tables day after day, and you want something that's going to be eye-catching or a conversation starter, I think you're going to find something you'll really like on DiceNest. And if you visit their website through the link in the description below, you will get a coupon code that will take off an astonishing 20% of your order. This is a pretty phenomenal discount, and I'm very appreciative of DiceNest offering this to my viewers. I hope you go check it out. There are some really cool things down there. And who knows, maybe one day with enough attention on this, we'll see a set of dice inspired by the legendary HeroQuest combat dice. One can dream, right? Anyway, link in the description below, 20% off, go check them out. And thank you so much to DiceNest for sending me these beautiful samples to show you. Darkworld's combat system is not too dissimilar from HeroQuest's, except the monsters don't roll defense dice back at you. The heroes are able to roll combat dice, and if they upgrade their weapon to a golden weapon, look at this little tiny sword and pretty respectable shield that he's holding very far away from his body, then your attacks have the potential to become stronger, but the Darkworld dice could still be replaced by simple D6. Basically, just by having a rule that's something along the lines of, hey, if you roll a 1, it's a miss. If you roll a 2 or a 3, it's a miss. A 4 and a 5 is 1 hit. A 6 is 2 hits. And then if you get your upgraded weapon, you could say a 1 is still a miss. A 2 through 4 is still 1 hit. And a 5 and 6 is still 2 hits. Something like that. You know what I mean. This is why we have D6 simps in the world. I don't know if I've ever really talked about the Warhammer Quest, the adventure games dice. the adventure card game. It's the exact same game, just with a different skin as Heroes of Terranoth, so its dice are pretty much the exact same, but the dice that come with this game system are really interesting. You have symbols that denote successes in whatever it is you're trying to do, whether that's attack or I think disarm traps is one of them. Anyway, you have die faces that denote successful defenses. You have die faces that denote double successes. And you've even got a die face that's like a success or a defense depending on the context in which it is rolled. So that's really cool. And then you've got the critical success, which means, hey, keep this die, tally 1 success, and just roll it again. So if I, as a hero, am rolling 3 of these and attack, I have 2 successful attacks right here because I've got 2 of the success markers. If I roll again, we see that my result is, again, 2 successful attacks. If I am rolling in defense with this roll, you can see that I scored 1 critical success, but no defenses. No defenses otherwise. Let's roll that one more time. I am a very defenseless character unless my critical successes can help me in defending. The monsters, the enemies in Heroes of Terranoth and Warhammer HeroQuest, the adventure card game, they roll a different set of dice that have a similar set of faces, but they work differently. They've got 2 faces that are outright misses. They've got 3 faces that are successes, and they have 1 face that is nemesis, which is like a critical special ability that they can activate on their card if they have one. So I think the game goes something like, if they roll an attack, then you can roll 2 shields to mitigate that attack. And of course, if you're homebrewing, you can do whatever you want. But if I'm attacking the enemy, I don't even think they roll at all. Or maybe they roll at the same time. Well, his nemesis ability has been activated. I attack for 3. Roll again. I attack for 3. I have 1 defense shield, so I can use, to be honest, I don't remember if I can use one or the other, or if I can actually use both on the face. I don't remember the combat system. Probably should have read up on that before I started the video. Catan, the dice game, has a really cool system. There is 1 different symbol on each of the die faces. We have gold ore, we have bricks, we have wheat, we have coal, we have sheep or livestock or animal, and we have logs. And if you roll these, you basically draft the ones that you want to keep because different combinations of what you roll contribute towards the points that you can earn. And you need anywhere between 2 and 5 faces that are specified on your sheet of paper, your sheet for the game, your round sheet, your player sheet for that round, whatever, for the game. This is actually a really great roll because I need 3 wheat and 2 coal, and I could actually build, was it, I think, a church or no, a city? Yeah, so I can now roll 2 more times, rolling however many dice I want. I can draft the ones that I want to keep, and now I'm just kind of pushing my luck. It would be much easier to roll like just 1 brick and 1 wood, and that would be a guaranteed success, and I could put those to the side, and I would have 4 more to roll. The chances of me rolling something more complicated or complex are now diminished because I'm keeping these 2, and I'm lessening my chances, and I'm lessening the amount of dice that I can roll. But I could easily roll those, but I'm going to roll 2 more times to see if I can get my other coal. There it is. This would be a success. It's either this or it's 3 coal and 1 wheat. So if I were to re-roll this die, I'd get logs and I'd lose, because if it were 2 wheat and 3 coal, well, I've gambled and I've gotten no points, which actually means that you lose 2 points in a game of Catan, the dice game, a game that I really recommend and enjoy. $5 at Five Below. Space Crusade is pretty much the same as the other games we've looked at where they have different colors of dice. Space Crusade is pretty much the same as the other games we've looked at that have different colors of dice to denote different chances of success. Your white dice are fairly useless with 4 zeros, 1 1, and 1 2. Your red dice being quite a bit better. You have 3 zeros, a 1, a 2, and a 3. You still have a 50% chance of missing though. Still, your weapons in this game allow you to roll multiple dice, so the chances of you actually hitting a success, well, I mean, they're present. You do have chances. You have a chance. I like the single die being able to accomplish a multitude of purposes idea so much that this is the kind of system. I like the concept of a single die being able to accomplish a lot of different functions so much that this is the concept that I'm going with Project F. I like the design convention of a single die accomplishing a multitude of different purposes depending on the context in which it is rolled so much that this is the system that I have adapted for use with Project F. So I have many homebrew dice that do a lot of different things. Let's attack these rats really quick with my cleric. I've got 1 sword. The rats have rolled 2 skulls. they're going down. They've lost their hit point. This enemy is going to move in now and roll his 2 skulls against my 2 dice of defense. Or at least he hopes. Nope, it was shields. And I rolled an I, which means I get to counter if the enemy rolls nothing. That's because this particular character has that ability. It's a counter attack for free, and it's 2 swords, and this enemy goes down. More on this when the time is right. This is already going to be a nightmare to clean up, so I might as well show you all of the dice that are in my bag. I've got quite a few, and I've collected them over a long time. Now we'll go ahead and just disregard the standard D&D 7 die sets. Different colors. There was a time that I got a few of these sets because I thought it would be nice to have a choice. But I tell you, Dollar Tree actually not too long ago had these for like $1 for the pack of 7, and I've never viewed them the same way since. It's like you can just get them for super cheap. You can get them for super cheap. We've got this Chaos die that's really just a D6. It's just got standard numbers 1 through 6 on it with the Chaos symbol representing 1. A ton of D6 that I was able to get at Dollar Tree. This is currently going on where there are 6 D6 in a pack for $1.25. I did manage to pick up a pretty cool set of D&D dice that are all kind of cylindrical. But I mean, again, there's no functionality difference. It's just a preference of style. We're still putting away the basic dice, and it's looking like I really don't have that much to show you after all, but I promise there are some cool dice here. First off, I do want to show off these extremely tiny dice that came with the Pirates card game. Not really a card game. They were sold as kind of cards in booster packs, but when you opened up the pack, the cards were actually thick cardstock that you could punch out the shape of a pirate ship and assemble and put it together. The Pirates game really seemed like a lot of fun, and it had the dice right there in the booster pack too. Definitely goes for quite a bit more than it used to cost on eBay, as all things do. Ah yes, the 3 certainties: death, taxes, and capitalism. I don't know where I got this. This is very nostalgic to me though, because there were some games way back in the 90s that were like for normies, but the normies were just really adults that were trying to get together and have a good time, have good clean fun, and they were always cast in this translucent red material. We had a neighbor who had a glass dish on his coffee table, and it was just full of D6s. And I'm like, what game is this? But I think it was just like Yahtzee or something. I think this D12 goes to one of my old games. It might actually go to Dungeon Quest, so I'm going to set it aside. All right, we have a very large 30-sided die, a 1D30. And I like these guys, but they do take a long time to finally land on a result. So there could be a lot of people kind of gathered around looking at it going, no, yes. We got a 23 there. Let's roll it again and wait 16 years for it to come to a standstill. We got a 19, that's not too bad. I don't know what we're trying to accomplish, but I'd say we passed with our buffs and our bonuses applied. More extremely tiny dice. These are, I don't think these are 5. I think these are like 3. And a lot of times when you try to buy dice this small, the listing will be like for entertainment purposes only, not for actual gaming, because they're not like balanced necessarily. They're not properly weighted, I guess. So it's perfectly fine to use them though to track hit points. Warhammer Quest, the 1995 edition, has a ton of 5mm, I think, dice, and these dice are all 6-sided, but they're not for rolling. They're for putting on the bases of the miniatures to track how many hit points they have left, how many wounds rather they have, if we are to use proper Warhammer terminology. This die I have kept for a long time. It's another one that I bought just standalone from a store, not tied to any specific game. And when you roll it, you're actually rolling 2 dice in one. Instead of having to roll 2d6, I rolled a double 1. That really sucks. That's like a critical failure on top of a critical failure. But it's rolling 1 die, and then you've got what? Technically, you've got 36 combinations, because 6 times 6, or maybe it's 30, actually, now that I think about it. No, it's 36. It is 36. There are 36 combinations of numbers here. The outer die can represent something different than the inner die, and as such, 36 combinations of numbers you can roll. This one is just a standard D10, but it's got, I suppose you could say Chinese, or you could say Japanese. I prefer to think of these as Japanese numbers, but I guess they could just as easily be Chinese. Oh no, Japanese. I'm just noticing the kana along the side here. Utsuku ichi go no ten. Oh, is this like a whole poem across the edge? That's really cool. I've had this for over a decade, and I've never noticed that before. I don't know what I thought that was, just like design motif, filigree, something like that. Anyway, I can read the numbers 1 through 10. We have the boring percentage die that might be really useful to somebody at some point. in time. We have the dungeon building D6. Depending on what face you roll, you can make an entire dungeon. So we have our corridor that ends in a T. We have our corridor turning left, turning right. We have a door that can lead into a room or out of the dungeon altogether. We have a set of stairs, and then the last face is a straight corridor. Doesn't determine the sizes of rooms and so on, but that's okay. We have a D12 that will allow you to select a target with a body part in mind. Chest, left leg, right hand, right arm, left foot, head, right leg, left arm, left hand, right foot, stomach, and so on. Let's see what I'm going to hit today, all right? Buckle up and prepare yourself. You're getting punched in the right arm. I mean the left hand. Put your hand down. If Batman can do it, so can I. We have another one that will allow you to roll for a specific monster like a vampire, a Balrog for some reason, a dragon, a mage, a rock, which I really like. You don't see enough mentions of rocks, or a giant spider. And I mean gigantic, because I've never actually noticed that that's a little guy there in the picture before. Never noticed that. We are learning things today. We are discovering. What monster am I summoning in your living room at 3 a.m. tonight? A Balrog. Well, tell your friends to fly and make sure you call them fools. We have a trap die. This is another D6, which of course could be replaced by a standard D6, but we have the guillotine, a weight falling on head. We have a poisonous gas cloud. Hope nobody ate Yield Taco Bell before leaving Yield Village. We have an arrow going through the head. Steve Martin would really appreciate that one. We have the trap door. You're going to fall into a pit, or perhaps you can call this you're going to get sucked up into the ceiling. Or, hey, why not just flow into a pipe, into a wall? We also have the pit of spikes, which could also be the ceiling of spikes. That's enough, Ash. A 12-sided zodiac die, which I bought, again, standalone like most of these. I just saw the die, I was like, that's cool, I want to buy it, and I bought it. Looks like I bought a second trap die. You just walked into your bathroom at midnight. What two traps are you going to encounter in the hallway on the way there? A poisonous cloud and an arrow through a hole in the wall. Finally, we have the weather die, and this will determine what the weather's like for you today. Looks like you're going to get a tornado. Be careful out there. Our other possibilities are snowflake, thunderstorm, sunny day, cloudy day, and partly cloudy, with a chance of meatballs. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this look into my dice collection, as well as different die results across various games. There is one game that I kind of saved for last and then forgot completely about, and that's Sword and Sorcery. Very similar to the Warhammer Quest, the adventure game dice. We have different faces on here that are just suitable for a variety of different situations, to the point of almost being confusing. This sort of POW effect with a ring of motion around it is considered a hit, and we have 4 such faces on one side of our 10-sided die, and on the other we have just 2, but we have one that is double, so you can double hit. So if you are attacking, you have pretty good chances of hitting your foe. We have a yellow arrow, a lightning bolt rather, which means an effect related to an ability of the owner. So if you were to roll this in attack, you're looking to get that lightning bolt to get special effects. We've got 2 faces with 1 lightning bolt and 1 face with 2 lightning bolts. Oh, I'm sorry, we have 3 faces with a single lightning bolt. Now we have 2 faces on here that represent like monstrous little goblin heads, and those are misses. Oh, I'm sorry. Upon further inspection, it appears I only have 1 die face. That's a complete total miss. We have a star on the faces that represents a trigger for some magical properties of an item. I see 2 faces that have this star, and they are in conjunction with a successful hit. There are shield icons on the defense dice that come with Sword and Sorcery, which obviously mean that the blow was successfully parried. And finally, we have one side that has this double S Sword and Sorcery symbol, which means a very special effect of some legendary items and powers. Now, what happens if you roll that and all you were trying to do was defend, or all you were trying to do was attack? I don't know. But I, for one, can definitely appreciate the variation on the die faces, even if I think it's a little bit complicated, a little bit noisy, especially with the texture of the die that they have chosen, the material rather. We've got that weird frozen sand glitter effect in the die, and that's going to hurt our readability if we really need to look at the symbols. So there you go. Just count that as a die critique for this episode. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. What's your favorite dice? Comment down below. Be sure to check out DiceNest. A huge thank you again for their help with this video and the beautiful sand therein. And I will catch you in the next exciting adventure. Until then, brave heroes, have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.